friends, Elizabeth here from Plant-Based Bride, back again with another video. And today's video is very exciting. I'm going to be showing you all of the filled-in spreads in the bullet journal that I used from July through to December in 2022. This isn't the chonkiest bullet journal I've ever had, not quite bursting at the seams. But there's still a lot to see, and I typically don't share any of the spreads after the pen, except for in these videos. And I know that can be really useful to see how people actually use the spreads that they're setting up, and also just as a reminder that everyone has times where they don't use their bullet journal as much. Everyone has messy pages, everyone makes mistakes and starts over. We're all human. So that is what this video is. I'm very excited to share it with you. So without further ado, let's hop in. This is, of course, my B5 size sunset notebook that I designed with Archer and Olive, this vegan leather cover. It was limited edition. I always get a little spark of joy when I look at it. So let's open it up. There we go. That is the inner cover. Of course, for this bullet journal, I went with a super minimalist graphic black and white theme, and my little inner cover flip out page with my grid spacing and the key. That all looks the same, of course, as well as my cover page and quote. Moving on to my future log, my initial plan had been to cover these with new stickers for the first 6 months of 2023 to plan even further ahead, but the last 6 months of 2022 were very busy for me. I did not get around to designing stickers. I actually altogether stopped making stickers because I realized I could not manage it with all the other things I was trying to do. So these are just empty because this was the past. So nothing there, but the last 6 months of the year, I used my future log quite a bit. I started using a gray Tombow just to mark the corresponding dates. So it was a little bit easier to figure out visually how much I had going on and sort of when it was happening. Moving on to my Kanban board, as I mentioned in my new bullet journal setup for the first 6 months of 2023, I'll link that video if you haven't seen it yet. I have stopped using a Kanban board physically in my bullet journal after quite a long time of using it to sort of manage my video production. I found that starting to do sort of different styles of videos, sometimes slightly more complex videos, doing longer term projects for videos like my bedroom makeover. If you missed that video, check that out. That was my first room makeover that I posted on my channel. But that bedroom makeover was 6 months in the making, a little bit more than that actually. So my video production in general has gotten more complex, and I've basically entirely moved how I manage my videos and keep track of where I am in the process from analog to digital into Notion. So as much as I love a Kanban board, and I highly recommend trying them if you're looking for project management tools, for me, I think the usability of the Kanban board is no longer aligned with what I need it for at this moment in time. And that's something to remember when it comes to bullet journals. I'll try not to talk so long about every spread, but I think this is important. When I stop using a type of spread, it doesn't mean that I don't like it anymore, or that I never liked it, or that it wasn't helpful for me for the time that I was using it. Any spread I choose to use, I hope it will work for me, and if I keep using it after the first time, it means it did and I liked it. And I'll keep using it until it isn't helpful for me anymore. And that's really what a bullet journal is all about, is being able to change your systems as your life changes, as your needs change. And there's no shame, there's no guilt, there's nothing wrong with leaving a spread behind and picking up a new one. There's nothing wrong with changing how a spread works, realizing something else would work better for you. That's just the basic, what the system is supposed to do. So anyways, I just wanted to say that because I saw some people being sort of upset or surprised that I stopped using a Kanban board. I do actually still use one. It's just a digital Kanban board in Notion, and I'm using it that way because it allows me to keep all of the information I need for my videos in one spot that I can also reference from any mobile device or my computer, which just makes my life a little bit more streamlined. So anyways, Still love a Kanban board, still recommend them if you're looking for an analog way to track your projects, but for me, this is the last Kanban board I'll be putting in my bullet journal for at least the foreseeable future. Moving on to my Waiting On, Want, Need, and Gifted spread. Waiting On, I used basically every line. I guess I probably could have fit one more thing at the bottom there. Very helpful way to track packages that are on their way so that I don't forget about things. Didn't use my Want, Need, and Gifted spreads quite as much, obviously a little bit, but I ended up eliminating this part of the spread in my new bullet journal setup because I just found I wasn't using it as much. Here I've got my work to-do list and personal to-do list, just general to-do lists of larger tasks that need to be done. Got some of them done, many of them I did not get around to. As I mentioned, the last 6 months of 2022 were very busy and hectic and overwhelming, so lots of things ended up having to be pushed into the future. We've got my period tracker. This is the same setup period tracker that I've been using for at least a couple years now. I'll do a really quick explainer for anyone who hasn't seen it before because I do get questions every time I show my period tracker. You have each month of the year along the top, and then each dot coming down represents one day of the month. So this is the first of every month, second of every month, etc. So you could also do a column along the side indicating the days if that's easier for you. I usually just track as I go so I can just sort of count from the last thing I marked, but you could very quickly add that if that makes it more usable for you. For me personally, I use these dots in gold in this case to mark when I'm actually menstruating and do a little circle on ovulation days, so I track those each month. In the past, I was tracking 3 different symptoms, and I just used really simple symbols. I did a diagonal to the right, a diagonal to the left, or an X to indicate those 3 symptoms. In this version of the spread, I really simplified it. There was really just one symptom that I was really actively trying to track, so I just used X's to keep track of that. And that's what that is. And of course, I don't use a key because I've been using the same symbols since I sort of developed this system of tracking my period. But you can also do a key and have a bunch of different colors or a bunch of different symbols to track as many things as you're trying to track. You could have a square for when you have a headache, and you could do pink when you have a cramp, and you can do orange when you're feeling extra fatigued. And that's something I love about the spread. It can be so incredibly simple, but it can also become very complex depending on your needs. So that's the period tracker. Just wanted to quickly explain it. Then I have a simple little date night tracker just to keep track of what dates we're doing and when. Again, last 6 months of 2022 were expensive, stressful, and very busy. So number of dates and variety of dates were less than usual. Moving on to the first monthly spread in this bullet journal, which is July. Did my lemon theme. This was a bit of a step outside my comfort zone this month, but I still love it. I will link my playlist with all my monthly setups in the description box if you want to watch any of the plan with me's, any of the process for any of these monthly spreads, but this one was a really fun one. And then my weeklies, which I was very overambitious with how intricate I was going to make my weeklies, full-on painted, very colorful and finished weekly. And if you know me, then you can probably guess what the next weekly is gonna look like. I sketched everything and I never got around to painting it. So this is why I tend to stick to simpler weeklies, because after the initial one that I make in my Plan With Me video, I often do not get around to doing the rest. And then it kind of makes me sad. Whereas if I make them simple from the start, it's a little less easy for me to disappoint myself. So these are all my traditional faux Dutch door rolling weekly setup, which I have a whole video explaining. As you know, if you have been watching my videos recently, I'm trying kind of a new format for my weeklies, which we'll see in the last monthly spread of this bullet journal. But my rolling weekly has been tried and true for many years, and I certainly, just like the Kanban board, I'm not, giving up on it altogether. I'm sure I'll go back to it at some point, but right now I'm just trying something a little different. Final spread here, final little piece of art. Moving on to August, and I love this theme, so much fun. I love the tea stained paper and the gold. Sort of a mythical theme for my 30th birthday. Once again, got a little carried away, did a bit of a fancier weekly spread. Not quite as time consuming or intricate as my July spreads, but still, you know, this isn't necessarily the quickest weekly setup I could do. And again, moving to the next week, sometimes this happens to me. This is very empty. In my defense, this was a very busy week. In particular, I picked my sister up from the airport. She was visiting us, and I was trying to work the least amount possible while still getting my basic tasks done while she was here. So that week just kind of disappeared into the ether. The next week, I used my weekly a lot more, but in pencil, and then Friday, Saturday, nothing. Who knows what happened? Again, no one is tracking, you know, perfect usage of your bullet journal. You're allowed to not use it if you don't feel like you need it one day, or if you're just busy, whatever. August was probably the busiest month of this year, with maybe the exception of December. And as you can see, I was just trying to get through. My sister visiting, we officially moved into our house this month. This week is actually not my fault. I just made one weekly too many when I was cutting my spreads. So this week actually exists on the next monthly setup. But yeah, August, it was a month that I just tried to get by. Tried to meet all my deadlines and also not lose my mind. And that's how it worked out. Final spread of this setup, I still love how these turned out. So pretty. Getting into September, my mushroom theme. Loved this theme. I honestly forgot that I even did a mushroom theme this recently. But it's so cute. Again, doing my rolling weekly. I will link the video where I explain how a rolling weekly works if you want to see that. Since I already spent time talking about the Kanban board and my period tracker in this video, and I do have a dedicated video on this style of weekly, so I will refer you to that if you want to learn more. So got these weeklies here. It's a little bit better about using my weeklies more like usual in September. Didn't bother to do the frames on this last weekly here, or second last weekly, and the last weekly. Just all my tasks. And the final spread here. Moving into October, this was such a fun theme to set up. I loved doing this sort of Dracula-inspired, sort of spooky theme. My monthly calendar here, and then my weeklies. Once again, I did a very intricate, time-consuming weekly, and I would just like you to guess, once again, what the second week of October looks like. It's still totally usable, but not pretty anymore. I really feel like I have to just start acknowledging that more intricate, fancy weeklies are not a thing that work for my life. So, you know, I keep trying to be in denial. I see people do beautiful weeklies every single week, and honestly, I don't know how they do it. I can't. It doesn't work for me. I just need to stop trying. So, got my quote there. And moving into November. So yeah, my beautiful November sort of fall theme. And my weeklies here. Tried a slightly different take on my weekly for November, which I liked. I feel like I kind of needed this middle ground to start to get me feeling brave enough to kind of go outside my comfort zone more in terms of my weeklies. So those are my weeklies in November. Apparently week 48 of the year, I didn't do anything except for a live stream, except I know that isn't true, but just didn't use my weekly for whatever reason. Ooh, here's a little insight. For anyone who watched my December plan with me, you'll know that I did a whole setup, or I did the cover page and the calendar, this one, and when it was finished, I decided I didn't like it and I started all over again. So this is the initial try. I did have a lot of people commenting on that video asking to see what my sort of first attempt was, and here you go. This was my first attempt. It was supposed to be like a cute little Christmas village. I wasn't happy with the color scheme I ended up going with. It worked better in my brain than it did on the page. It just didn't give off the like wholesome, sparkly, adorable wintertime vibes that I had been hoping for. So I just gave up and I started over. And you know what? I'm happy I did because I really love how my new December theme turned out with these chickadees. We have so many chickadees that visit us in the backyard in the mornings through the winter time here at our house. And I love chickadees. They're so cute. So I had a lot of fun painting the 2 chickadee paintings I did for this setup. And then just keeping it super, super simple. This was my first attempt at a very different take on a weekly, splitting my work into multiple different categories here, and then doing my weeklies without the sort of rolling task list, just to see how that worked out in December. And I definitely felt like there were aspects of this that worked really well for me, but it wasn't totally perfect, which is why, as you saw in my January setup and my February setup, I've continued to sort of tweak this idea, but I'm still sticking with this general sort of structure for a little bit because I do think it's working for me right now. And it's fun to try something a little different from time to time. I left this whole space for plant planning. I ended up just planning everything in Notion. So other than my little countdown of my schedule, this remained blank. And then the final page of this setup here, my little quote and my other little adorable baby chickadee. And that brings us to the end. It just got the final page here. I literally used every page in this bullet journal up to the last sheet before the end papers start here. And of course, as always, my Post-it graveyard. Many of those weeks where they look almost entirely blank, I would have been using random Post-its to get me through. Don't ask me why. Some days, some weeks, my brain works better using a Post-it. I don't know what to tell you. Especially these sort of longer Post-its. I love using these to write out a timeline of the day for a busier day where I just really want to plan out basically hour by hour what has to get done. I tend to keep all my Post-its for no particular reason, I just do. And this is where they live, at the back of my bullet journal. So that is my completed bullet journal for the second half of 2022. Again, not quite as chunky as some past bullet journals have been, but we've still got, you know, a good amount of chunk in there, a good amount of stuff. Like I said, very busy, overwhelming, strange, unusual, busy 6 months in the second half of 2022. What are you gonna do? But my bullet journal got me through it, you know, through thick and thin. Sometimes I use it a ridiculous amount. Sometimes I don't touch it for a couple days, but it's always there for me. And that's why I keep using one year after year after year. So I hope you enjoyed this flip through, seeing behind the curtain, seeing my incomplete spreads, my theme fails, my messiness and excessive use of Post-its. I hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit about some of the spreads that I have sort of retired or shifted over time. I find videos like this really interesting just to see how people are really actively using their bullet journals just in that really like relatable day-to-day way. Let me know in the comments down below which of the themes in this bullet journal was your favorite. I'm curious. I think if I had to pick one, just really quick off the top of my head, I would pick my August theme. I really, really loved how that theme turned out. Felt very special to me. Come here, Yoda. Yoda agrees. She just hopped down from the window where she was napping to come tell me that she also loved the August theme, I guess because there was a self-portrait in there with both Chewie and Yoda featured, so why am I surprised? But yeah, let me know your favorite theme in the comments. That is it. Yoda and I say goodbye. She's rubbing her face aggressively on the corner of the desk. Come here, honey. And now there's cat fur all over my desk. This is my life. All right, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you so much. Extra special thanks to my patrons for their support. If you want to join us on Patreon, feel free. There's a link in the card and in the description box down below. My patrons get monthly printables of all of the sort of art that I do for my monthly themes. So if you liked any of these and you would want to potentially print out some of that art to use in your own bullet journal. If you become a patron, you can go back and get printables from past months as well. They're not locked by time or anything, so check that out if you're interested. We would love to have you. And with that, I'm gonna get going. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you really soon in my next one. Bye, friends. What are you doing? Someone's feeling snuggly.